Hi, I'm David. Thanks for stopping by Prepare911.com. So as you can see, we're in the kitchen, and today we're going to be talking about one of those things that we just can't go without, and that's food.
During turbulent times, you step into the fray to protect yourself and those you love. Go to Prepare911.com for more information.
There are lots of food options on the market. One of them is the traditional MRE, but they're only shelf stable for about 5 years. The next is freeze-dried food. It comes in a number 10 can or in a pouch. It's convenient, you mix it together, and it does provide a good amount of calories in that, but it's also pretty expensive. The solution we came up with was making our own bread. Bread has been made for thousands of years. Wheat is incredibly shelf stable. Wheat will grow in a large number of climates, cold climates and warm climates. So it is in general a great prepping option. Wheat is composed of 3 components. The outer core of it is called the bran. The center of it is composed of what's called endosperm. It's the white stuff inside the center of flour. And then there is a small piece of wheat germ inside of there that contains the vast amount of minerals and vitamins that you get inside of wheat. So why do people not like modern bread? And it's because the normal milling process that is used inside of commercial mills strip away the bran and the wheat germ, and they sell those separately as cattle food to farmers, leaving mostly what's called the endosperm, which is the carbohydrates on the inside. That's not exactly good for you if you're looking for good nutritious food. The best option is to mill your own wheat. And what I'm going to be using today is simply a tabletop wheat mill. We're going to pour wheat in top, we're going to get flour coming out the side. But what happens if you don't have electricity? Then we have the hand mill. Pour the wheat in the top, turn the crank until it grinds up all the wheat into flour, and you've got the same sort of stuff coming out the bottom. Now we're going to talk about how to make bread. There are a small number of components that you're going to need in order to make bread. The first is going to be actually the wheat. The wheat you can buy in these 40-pound pails. They run around $45, which makes purchasing of the wheat one of the most affordable options as far as preparedness. The next thing to bear in mind is that 1 container of wheat has approximately 55,000 calories inside of it. What does that mean? Well, if your circle, meaning your family, consumes on average, let's say 5,000 calories a day, 2,200 calories for an adult male, 1,800 calories for an adult female, and then around 1,000 calories for a child, you're looking at roughly 5,000 calories a day. If the pail contains 55,000 calories in it, this means that this one $45 pail will have approximately 11 days worth of calories that can be consumed for the people that you care about. Now, does that mean that all you would want to eat is bread? The answer is probably not. So if you add other components on top of the bread, if you make stew or some type of soup to work with the bread, then you're just going to add those additional calories on top of the bread and either give you a higher caloric intake, or you're simply going to be able to survive for a longer period of time because you have more calories coming in. So let's talk about what you need in order to make bread. So first, it's the wheat. I use 3 cups of whole wheat that I put inside the mill. Once I mill it, that makes between 4 1/4 to 4 1/2 cups of flour, and I use pretty much all of that flour when I combine it in the mixer. Is going to be olive oil. You can really use any type of oil, but I like a good clean olive oil. So I simply stay away from olive oil that has been bottled inside the United States and get something that's coming in from overseas, such as Italy, Greece, many of the other places over there which have olive groves and produce their own olive oil. So olive oil, you'll need about 1/3 of a cup. Next, you're going to need honey. Honey, you're also going to need about 1/3 of a cup. You will need salt, and that's going to be 2 teaspoons of salt. And then you're going to need about 1.5 cups of water. And the water you want approximately 130 degrees or so. You don't want it boiling, because if it's boiling, it's going to kill the yeast. You also don't want it too cold, because if it's too cool, it's just going to take the bread a lot longer to rise. There are some other ingredients that I combine in there. You will also need yeast. If you don't put the yeast in there, then you're going to end up with a flat bread. There are some other things that you can add into it which will provide it more taste. The first is an egg, just a medium-sized egg. You break it, throw it inside. Next is about a teaspoon of gluten. Now, inside of wheat, you're going to get gluten inside of there. As you work the bread, the gluten is going to develop. But in order to ensure that I have bread that is going to stretch, I add about a teaspoonful of gluten inside of my bread. Finally is something called lecithin. Lecithin is an emulsifier, simply meaning it helps everything come together and combine together better. So now let's go ahead and get started. Let's start mixing all these ingredients up. We're going to throw them in the mixer and go from there. So you're going to see I'm going to throw the egg in there. Next, I'm going to throw in about a tablespoon of lecithin. Teaspoon of gluten. Two teaspoons of salt. A 1/3 of a cup of honey. And I put the olive oil in there first and then add the honey on top of it. And I'll use that to mix everything together. I usually use a tablespoon in order to start incorporating everything inside of here. You can look, you'll see the wheat germ. It's the brown parts on the inside of the wheat. Simply just go in here and start adding it in. I usually add it in pretty fast. And add in about half of the wheat. In order to ensure this mix the sides, the water should have been a little bit hotter than what it was. About a tablespoon of yeast in order for the bread to rise well. I usually put about 1.5 tablespoons myself. If you were in an area or a time where you wanted to be more careful with your resources, 1 tablespoon or less, or a little bit less, maybe 2 teaspoons, should be enough to let it rise appropriately. In order to rise in, it will tend to rise a little bit better and faster if it's in a warm area. So again, I'm going to turn it off. Out here, I'm going to do my mixing. Make sure it's got everything mixed up inside of here real well. What I'm making sure is that all the bottom is mixed and incorporated in there. Now we'll add just a little bit more flour. There we go. You notice how it's beginning to develop really nicely on it's pulling away from the sides really well. It's being worked around. I let the bread rise. It has been 45 minutes. So you notice it has gone up about double, which is what we wanted. Flip it over, give it a couple pops. Let's go ahead and get this all out. Now the next step is to roll everything out. Once it's rolled out, so we're going to let this thing preheat itself up here to 350. We have got some good looking bread right now. Look at that. We have got some good looking bread right now.